Test, test, 1, 2. Thanks a lot. Sound okay? All right. That sounds hot to me. Oh, good. Ed, I can hear you well too. Thanks.
Lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai 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 la lai lai.
On behalf of Cantor Hyman and Dr. Fran Martin, who is representing our board of directors on our Bima this evening, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is a joy to welcome congregants and friends and guests here on the live stream and here in the sanctuary in person. Let's be sure to be among community and hear all of our voices. Thank you to that one. And take this moment to please introduce yourselves in the comments or turn around and find someone new to greet here. To kindle our Shabbat lights, we welcome Betsy and David Weiss, and joining them virtually from New York and Oregon, their children, Nathaniel and Lila. Page 2. And we continue on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. לחיים.
It's Jewish tradition to have 2 loaves of challah at the Shabbat table, and for the challah to be entirely whole, as it was when it came out from baking in the oven. In my household, we are trying a new challah tonight. We are trying challah from Bart's Bagels, who has an everything bagel seasoned challah. And I can tell you it's really good. Now, I can tell you that even though we haven't had Shabbat dinner because we actually don't eat until after services, I can tell you that because I have a little trick. It's not halachic according to Jewish law, but I like to take a taste a few hours before. And so I just sort of from underneath. You know this trick? You've seen this. Yes.
Oh,
from
yes.
underneath. You know my ways. And then it still looks great on the table. And so when it comes time for motzi, and the family can see that there's a chunk missing, I just blame my teenage son. And if you have a teenager at home, you too can feel free to try this at home. But I recommend this one. It may be the best in the city. Ooh. Let's share some Shabbat joy, a taste of Shabbat through singing as we take a deep breath and release, turning from the noise of the week to the peace and the joy of Shabbat. On page 11, we continue, and to energize our Kabbalat Shabbat singing, please rise and body your soul.
Hamda libi, Eile 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 hamda libi. Hamda libi, Chusana ve'al natitalam, Chusana ve'al natitalam, Chusana ve'al natitalam, Chusana ve'al natitalam. Eile hamda libi, 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 Eile hamda libi. Elechamda libi, Elechamda libi, Elechamda libi, Elechamda libi. Chusana ve'al natitalam, Chusana ve'al natitalam, Chusana ve'al natitalam, Chusana ve'al natitalam.
Making way for Shabbat in our lives, we welcome the Shabbat Bride with Lecha Dodi, pages 20 and 21.
Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, ישמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ותפארת ולתחילה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה. סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך כל מאורי. אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Lecha Dodi, לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה.
Turning to page 28, we continue with our call to worship.
Lai 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 la lai lai la lai 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 la lai lai la lai 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 ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. לי 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 לי.
In the middle of page 147, together. Adonai, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth.
Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim.
Page 32. At the middle of the page together. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Page 36. Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמת.
In the federal hate crimes trial against the murderers of Ahmaud Arbery, we do not avert our eyes. We bear witness to this week's testimony to the brutal racism that exists systemically throughout our society. In its wake, I share these words of redemption and hope poet Amanda Gorman wrote a few years ago. Ode to Girls of Color. At the age of 5, I saw how we always pick the flower swelling with the most color. The color distinguishes it from the rest and tells us this flower should not be left behind. But this does not happen in the case of colored girls. Our color makes hands pull back, and we left to grow alone, stretching our petals to a dry sun. At the age of 12, I blinked in the majesty of the color within myself, blinded by the knowledge that a skinny black girl, a young brown teen, has the power to light Los Angeles all night, the radiance to heal all the scars left on the city's pavement. Why had this realization taken so long? When color pulses in all that is beauty and painting and human, you see, long ago they told me that snakes and spiders have spots and vibrant bodies if they're poisonous. In other words, being of color meant danger, warning, do not touch. At the age of 18, I know my color is not warning, but a welcome. A girl of color is a lighthouse, an ultraviolet ray of power, potential, and promise. My color does not mean caution, it means courage. My dark does not mean danger, it means daring. My brown does not mean broken, it means bold backbone from working twice as hard to get half as far. Being a girl of color means I am key, path, and wonder all in one body. At the age of 18, I am experiencing how black and brown can glow. And glow I will, glow we will, vibrantly, colorfully, not as a warning, but as promise that we will set the sky alight with our magic. We turn to our tradition's words of redemption, Micha Mocha, page 40.
Lay 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 lay. Mi chamocha ba'eli matonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot oseh pele, nora tehilot oseh pele. מלכותך ובניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 44 at the middle of the page.
ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, וקוראי עונג וקוראי עונג, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, וקוראי עונג וקוראי עונג, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. מקדשי שביעי, כולם ישבעו ויתענגו מטובך, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. וקוראי עונג, וקוראי עונג, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו, חמדת ימים אותו קראת, זכר למעשה וראשית. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. וקוראי עונג, וקוראי עונג, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת.
We are entering some quieter, contemplative moments of the Amidah, beginning on page 46 and following. We turn to God. Please rise.
Adonai, שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל, אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומיתו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Turning to page 61, let us join together in our blessing for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace.
Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael bashalom.
We take these moments for silent prayer.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. יאללה לה 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 יאללה לה 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 יאללה לה 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 יאללה לה 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 יאללה לה 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 יאללה לה לה יאללה לה 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 יאללה לה 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 לה. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
In a moment, we will be on page 253 for a blessing for healing. In this week's Torah portion, Moses becomes so angry at the sight of the idol the Israelites have created that he smashes the stone tablets of Torah. What happens to those broken shards? Later, when our people journey through the wilderness, they carry the shattered pieces of the original tablets along with the whole. We carry our brokenness. And when we are blessed with community, we help each other journey towards wholeness. If you have a loved one touched by serious illness or brokenness of mind, body, or spirit, please add that name to the comments or speak it aloud now.
מי שברך אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotzeinu mekor habracha lavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
In this week's Torah portion, Moses is described as having this glow, this radiance, described as Keren Or, a ray of light emanating from him. As we consider the past day, the past week in our own lives, perhaps there are those things making you glow. Perhaps there's even a Keren Or coming from within. Maybe there's a new first, maybe there's a new in-between surges first that you've experienced, a loved one you've seen, whatever you've learned or experienced anew this week, or whatever it is that is worthy of gratitude, we hold in our hearts as we turn to page 344 for our blessing of thanksgiving, the Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'kiyimanu v'higi'anu lazman hazeh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'kiyimanu v'higi'anu lazman hazeh.
Sometimes the meaning from a story comes not only from the plot, but also from the plot holes, the inconsistencies, the mysteries uncovered with a new perspective. This week, the Israelites commit their transgression of idolatry when they build the golden calf, right at the foot of Mount Sinai when Moses is receiving the Torah from God. Moses is about to share that Torah with the people. It's the image from the movies, whether you're picturing Charlton Heston or Mel Brooks. But here is the confusing inconsistency. The story of the revelation of Torah was told in the Torah portion a month ago. Only the golden calf details do not appear until this week's Torah portion, Ki Tisah. So what have we been doing for a month? What happened in between? After that revelation scene, the following week, Moses and the people learned laws required to shape an ethical civilization. Following that, last week, the Israelites learned the vision for how to build the Mishkan, the portable tabernacle for their journey. Next week, the Israelites will actually start to construct that Mishkan. But this week, the flow of the story is interrupted. This week, the Torah reveals the backstory, what really happened when Moses was on Mount Sinai retrieving the 10 Commandments. The return to the scene reveals, impatient and tempted by idolatry, the Israelites mold a golden calf. Big fail. Jewish tradition refers to the golden calf, the symbol of faithlessness, disloyalty, and rejection of ethics, simply as the sin. But why is the narrative out of sequence? Are you following the Torah portion order? It goes giving of the Torah, laws of Torah, vision for Mishkan, back to giving of Torah with golden calf story, and then building of the Mishkan. Why is the Israelites' downfall placed in between the design for the Mishkan and the construction of the Mishkan? As always in Jewish commentary, there are multiple possibilities. Here's one. The placement of the golden calf just prior to the Mishkan construction could serve as a message to the people. Immediately before they build, when they need it most, a warning. Before you build, remember, build for sacred purpose. Building, creating something of greatness, can inflate ego and selfishness, can veer us away from holiness and humanity. So this golden calf interruption, this brutal scene, serves as a cautionary tale. Here's what can happen when we fail to keep on our path. An interruption reminding us, yes, you can build great things, and you can also tragically fail as human beings. Use your talents and materials for righteousness, for mitzvot. Don't build the wrong thing. Humanity's potential for failure haunts me in my reading of the novelist Dara Horn's recent important nonfiction book called People Love Dead Jews, Reports from a Haunted Present. Dara Horn will visit Rod of Shalom as a keynote speaker next month. And preceding her visit, I encourage you to prepare by participating in Rabbi Kuhn's Read RS book discussion session in a few weeks. For most, that also means reading the book. Reporting on many historical chapters of anti-Semitism, Dara Horn takes a new approach to understanding Jew hatred. She notices that society lifts up one particular outlook on anti-Semitism. That is, society is comfortable with stories of anti-Semitism that bring redemption, inspiration, and a message that people are ultimately good. Society seeks to gloss over the brutal, tragic failures of humanity. And that wish to let society off the hook is what makes so much of the understanding of anti-Semitism incomplete. Dara Horn considers society's fascination with the diary of Anne Frank. Among Anne Frank's most repeated words, I still believe, in spite of everything, that people are truly good at heart. Of course, Anne Frank wrote these words before she encountered the worst of people, before she met the Nazis. Had she survived the brutality of Auschwitz and been able to write an account of her time there, would the world be as interested in reading her words? Horn insists, no. In her youth, her inexperience, Frank unintentionally lets society off the hook, and that's her appeal. Elie Wiesel first published his book, Night, under a different title. It was called And the World Was Silent, but he changed it in order to sound less accusatory. Horn's understanding serves as a cautionary tale to me. When faced with the worst of humanity, we cannot escape into comfort zones. We cannot avert our eyes with stories of inspiration. Dara Horn teaches that most of modern Jewish literature is Holocaust literature. that features a non-Jewish rescuer of a Jewish victim, as though Jewish suffering exists for the purpose of human redemption. Society demands Holocaust stories be uplifting, inspiring, as though that were the story. Yet during the Holocaust, actual righteous Gentiles were only 0.001%, despite the outsized role they play in literature. Statistically speaking, rescue was not the experience of almost anyone who endured the Holocaust. Horn submits, the story of Jewish deaths are told in order to demonstrate universal humanity in our society, to make us feel better about humanity. Without presenting a neat resolution to the hatred in our world, Dara Horn turns to our own tradition to understand Judaism is not designed for a tidy or whole or saved world. Even the Torah concludes, undone, the Israelites' journey not quite complete. For me, this, our tradition, is the source of our inspiration, not a false redemption of humanity, not a comfortable denial of brutality, but a tradition that understands humanity's potential for failure and compels us toward a righteous path through a broken world, a path on which we do not avert our eyes, a path that shows us the brutal golden calf interruption before we can continue on our way, a path that, forever changed, moves forward past the golden calf to take the vision and construct the Mishkan, to build the sacred, a path of devotion to Jewish life, mitzvot, holiness, to doing God's work here on earth. At the end of Parshat Ki Tisa, Moses says, "Oh, let me behold your presence." God answers, "I will make all my goodness pass before you, and I will proclaim before you the name of the Eternal, and the grace that I grant, and the compassion that I show." But God says, "You cannot see my face, for people may not see me and live." And the Eternal says, "See, there is a place near me. Station yourself on the rock, and as my presence passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock and shield you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take my hand away, and you will see my back, but my face must not be seen." Not even Moses' world was complete. God, may we sense your grace and feel your compassion. And even when we feel it distant, even when we are in darkness, may we always reach for holiness and righteousness, proclaiming as Moses did, "Oh, let me behold your presence." Shabbat Shalom. Turning to page 282 and then 287, we continue with Aleinu. Please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד ארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת עוזו בגובהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. These words from Chana Senesh. There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light, long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we've loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. This week, our congregation observes yahrzeit for the following people whom we remember and on whose shoulders we stand: Hannah Reuben Abrams, Jean Anathan Adler, Isadore Album, Ann Apfelbaum, Dorothy Bass, Fanya Shore-Bean, Helen Beildeck, Myra Bernstein, Lee D. Blankensee, Herman Brandeis, Harry Brooks, Alfred E. Brunswick, Harry L. Davidson, Janine Dumartin, Clara Einstein, Ann G. Eisman, Samuel Joseph Ephraim, Harry Epstein, Rose Feinberg, David Finkelman, Roger Foreman, Lulu Rosenau Frankel, Moan Samuel Friedenberg, Saul Glazer, Jenny Nettie Glass, Alvin Goodwin, Harry J. Goodwin, Abraham Haas, Ruth Haber, Margaret Berg Hahn, Miriam Blumenthal Hahn, Frank E. Hahn Jr., Isaac Hassler, Paul Hertzberg, Paul Hirschfeld, Erwin M. Jacobs, Leonard Jacobs, Sally Jonas, Morris Kaplan, Bess Kerlitz, Hanny Tessler Cohn, Hannah A. Cohn, Robert C. Kramer, Jock Kunitz, Mildred Kunitz, Isabel G. Lane, Louis J. Leventhal, Helene Lefko, Celia S. Loaf, Caroline Levy, Samuel H. Levy, Harry M. Loeb, Abraham Luria, Evelyn Magaziner, Thomas McClosey, David Middleman, Joseph Moss, Carol Ann Nordheimer, Helen J. Oceani, Israel Phillips, Bella Polikoff, Ann Fredel Pudd, Enid F. Rabb, Karen Weiss Reynolds, Thelma Jacobs Rosenblum, Eugene Rush, James Sanick, Daniel Scavola, Alfred Schwartz, Kiwa Schwartz, Isabella Schwartz, Alvin Siegel, Bernard Kapnick Surfer, Stephen Sirota, Ruth Scherer, Marion H. Silverman, Howard Melvin Simons, Aaron Snyder, Goldie Solomon, Arthur Stiffel, Jacob L. Strauss, Leela Wakel, Teresa Weinberg, Rabbi David H. Weiss, Valentine L. Wilson, Albert Wolf, Cliffy Wolf, Bella Grossman Yarrow, Sidney Zaretsky, Norbert Zeelander. We add the names of those who have been taken from our midst, but not from our hearts, in these most recent days for whom we observe Shloshim. Bonnie Blumenthal Finkelstein, Gail Malka Meister, Gloria Robinson, Henrietta Slapp. If you are observing Yartzeit or Shloshim for someone whose name I did not mention, please feel free to call it out now. Together we honor their memories as, turning to page 294, we rise for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabba, ve'alma devarach cherutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'alam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudasha barechu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring comfort to the bereaved and peace to each of you. And together we say, Amen.
Ose shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Ose shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
We wish you a Shabbat Shalom. If you are new to the congregation, please be sure to introduce yourself to Stephen Scher, our membership manager, who is waving from the back of the sanctuary and looks forward to greeting you. And if you're not new, but you haven't met Stephen yet, this is a wonderful opportunity. We are going to conclude with these words and then in song. And the Eternal says, "See, there is a place near me. Station yourself on the rock. And as my presence passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock and shield you with my hand until I have passed by." May we pay attention, that we may behold something of God's presence.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless us and keep us.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May the light of God's Spirit shine upon us and be good to us.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
may God's presence be with us and bring us peace. May this be God's will. Shabbat Shalom.